These revelations thrilled Kavyakantha. He finally understood how to be in touch with the truth through a practical method. Wave after wave of ecstasy flooded through him for hours in the presence of the ascetic. At last, when he opened his eyes, he asked the attendant, Palani Swami, for the ascetic's name. Though he was then called Brahmana Swami, Kavyakantha learnt that his real name was Venkataramana. Kavyakantha took Ramana from his name, and since he had seen God in this ascetic, he named him Bhagavan. Bhagavan in Sanskrit means God. As he had also given a revelation about tapas, which no scripture had ever explained so clearly before. To Kavyakantha, Bhagavan was also a Vedic rishi. Rishi means sage and is derived from drushta, which means seer, one who has seen with the inner eye. A rishi is he who is ever connected to the original, inexhaustible source of wisdom. But to Kavyakantha, Bhagavan was not only a rishi, but a maharshi, a great rishi. Therefore he named the ascetic Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. This name, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, the chanting of which has guided countless people to the silent, still truth, was given by this man of rare genius, Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni. At that time, he had over 200 disciples of his own, including noble scholars like Daivarata and Kapali Shastri. He wrote a letter to them saying, "I have found my Guru. Henceforth, it is not I, but Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi who is our Guru." The next day he went to Bhagavan and said, "Bhagavan, please accept me." Bhagavan graciously conceded to his request and said, "Stay in the cave that is adjacent to Virupaksha cave." Called Mango Tree Cave, its proximity to Virupaksha cave allowed the Guru and disciple to visit each other every day. Bhagavan continued to pour his grace and help Kavyakantha mature spiritually. Bhagavan held Kavyakantha in high esteem and addressed him with much respect. One day Kavyakantha held Bhagavan's feet and begged, "Please Bhagavan, do not address me respectfully. I am your disciple and your child. Do not address me in such reverential terms." But Bhagavan continued to do so. He then learnt from his other disciples and Kavyakantha's admirers that they referred to him as Nayana, which means father in Telugu. Bhagavan told Kavyakantha, "Hereafter I will call you Nayana." Nayana accepted this because in Telugu the word also meant disciple or child. It is interesting to note that Kavyakantha was a staunch devotee of Shiva, the formless father aspect of God. He had never worshipped God in the aspect of the mother. However, from the moment the mother showed his Guru to him, he became her devotee as well. The side of the hill in front of which the Arunachaleshwara temple is located is called the front of the hill. The stretch from Niruddhilingam to the Ishanyalingam, southwest to northeast, is the back. A little-known secret about Arunachalam is that the front is the father aspect, while the back is the mother aspect. All miracles and powers, psychic, spiritual, physical, or worldly, stem from the mother aspect. In the lives of Bhagavan's devotees, miracles and visions took place between Niruddhilingam and Ishanyalingam. With Kavyakantha too, it was at Niruddhilingam that the mother aspect guided him to his Guru. He wanted to express his gratitude to the mother by composing 1,000 Sanskrit verses in her praise. He surrendered to Bhagavan and began the work after getting his permission. He chose a sacred day to complete the 1,000 verses. Unfortunately, he fell ill and could write only around 700. The night before his self-imposed deadline, he approached Bhagavan at Virupaksha cave with his problem. Bhagavan encouragingly reassured him, "Do not worry, I will come and sit with you." It was a wonderful sight. The young master sitting, radiating silence, his older devotee dictating extempo verses in a torrential flow, and his disciples writing them down late into the night around the lantern light. Genius that he was, Kavyakantha started dictating the first line of the first verse to the first disciple, the first line of the second verse to the second disciple, the first line of the third verse to the third disciple, and so on. Then he proceeded without stopping to dictate the second line of the first verse to the first disciple, the second line of the second verse to the second disciple, the second line of the third verse to the third disciple, until at 1:30 in the morning the 1,000 verses were complete. Bhagavan, who until then was sitting with eyes closed in rock-like silence, opened his eyes and asked, "Have you taken down all that I dictated?" Kavyakantha fell at his guru's feet and cried, "Yes, Bhagavan, they are your verses." This anthology of verses is called Uma Sahasram. Uma is the Divine Mother, while Sahasram in Sanskrit means 1,000. Therefore, the title can be translated as 1,000 verses in praise of the Divine Mother. Kavyakantha revised the first 700 or odd verses many times, but left the verses that he dictated that wonderful night, verses that he felt came from Bhagavan, untouched. When I came back to Ramanasramam, some people for whom I had a lot of respect often spoke ill of Kavyakantha. They claimed that his accounts were figments of his imagination. I was influenced by their views. I approached Munagala Venkataramayya, a great scholar and one of the recorders of the talks with Bhagavan. Munagala had not seen Kavyakantha and therefore was neutral about him. "Why do people pull down Kavyakantha so much?" I inquired, listing out all the transgressions he was rumored to have made. "Ganesan, stop," he exclaimed. "How did you know all this?" I revealed the names of the people who told me this. He replied, "They have given an opinion and you have received it. Are you sure it is the truth?" I was puzzled. "How can we know which opinion is correct?" I asked. Munagala then said, "Ganeshan, don't you know the secret? Whatever Bhagavan says is correct. Whatever everyone else says is an opinion." I was still not satisfied. I had read an argument that Kavyakantha was not a self-realized soul because he had so many sankalpas. His detractors often quoted this, and I was convinced by this logic. I put forth my argument to Munagala. He told me, "I asked Bhagavan the same thing. How come it is written in such and such a book that Kavyakantha was not self-realized?" Bhagavan told me, "That is not what I said, but what the recorder must have expected me to say." Munagala then advised me, "Go by whatever Bhagavan has said and you will be near the truth. Do not go by opinions, particularly if they divide people, whether about saints or anyone else. Do not pay heed to them. Seekers should never be carried away by negative statements made about any saint. In order to progress, this is the first rule to remember. What detractors say are just opinions, and if we believe them, we fall victim to the mind." It is true that Kavyakantha had very high ideals. However, they were not sankalpas, but satya sankalpas. A sankalpa is a concentrated desire of wanting to achieve something. A satya sankalpa is that sankalpa that comes to you, not that you have a desire for it. In 1908, Kavyakantha had asked Bhagavan, "Is seeking the source of the I thought sufficient for the attainment of all my aims, or is mass incantation, mantra japa, needed?" Bhagavan replied, "Seeking the source of the I thought will suffice." This was the initial advice Bhagavan gave him, but Kavyakantha pressed on with his argument and asked, "What about my aims and ideals?" Bhagavan replied, "It will be better if you throw the entire burden on the Lord. He will carry them, and you will be free. He will do his part." Munagala told me, people quote only these sentences, but Bhagavan told me what happened afterwards. At first, Kavyakantha could not grasp the inner meaning of Bhagavan's counsel. After a few years, he came to Bhagavan and said, "Bhagavan, I am surrendering all my sankalpas at your holy feet." There was no greater God than Bhagavan for him. Kavyakantha and his disciples plied Bhagavan with questions. Though the answers were not immediately noted down, Nayana had such a clear memory that he later condensed Bhagavan's answers into verses and recited them saying, "This is from the 3rd chapter of Ramana Gita," or "This is the 8th verse from the 2nd chapter in Ramana Gita." He had not yet written Ramana Gita, and people used to wonder at his claims. Finally, one day he sat down and wrote the entire Ramana Gita of 300 verses. He wrote the questions with their answers and showed them to Bhagavan, who verified each one of them and remarked, "Perfectly correct." In Ramana Gita, one of Bhagavan's answers about women is most revealing. Nayana questions Bhagavan, are not women equal to men? Bhagavan answers, what is woman or man? It is based on the body. For the soul there is no difference. Then Nayana asks, is it possible for women to master the scriptures? Bhagavan replied, without a doubt. Nayana went on, can women get self-realization? Do they become jnanis? Without a doubt, the Guru said, for the soul which has to achieve realization, there is no difference. In 1908, when Bhagavan's mother attained Mahasamadhi, it was not Bhagavan who wanted to entomb her, glorify her or build a temple for her. It was Kavyakantha who told Bhagavan that according to the scriptures and your words in the Ramana Gita, she is a realized soul. She should be entombed with all sanctity. He administered this task, and it was over her samadhi that the Matru Bhuteshwara temple was constructed. Kavyakantha even